Hello friends and welcome to yet another video on TutorialsPoint with me Richa. Today in this module we will talk about business negotiation skills. Well, all of us negotiate at some point or another in our life. Either it may be at home front if you are a parent, you might be negotiating with your child to get the homework done, or in your professional setup at your workplace, you might be negotiating with your team members or with your managers and leaders in order to get a little less work done. Well, negotiation is something that can be called as bargaining, well, not completely bargaining, but somewhat like that. Let's take a look at what is there on the agenda for us in this particular module on business negotiation skills. Well, we will talk about what exactly is the meaning of negotiation skills. We will talk about the basics of negotiation. We will also talk about the importance of negotiation, the requisites or rather the prerequisites of a good negotiation. We will also list down the steps of how exactly a negotiation happens and tips for becoming better negotiators. Well, I'm very excited to teach you on this particular module and let's get started right away. So friends, what exactly do we mean by the word negotiation? Here it is what it means. Negotiation is a process where two or more parties with different needs and goals discuss an issue to find a mutually acceptable solution. While you may be negotiating with the other party who has a completely different point of view as well as having a different need, opinion and ultimate goal that they want to achieve. The idea of negotiation is to come to a compromise or to come to a mutually acceptable decision which will benefit both the parties. In business, negotiations are important in both formal day-to-day interactions as well as formal interactions like it could be sale or lease or delivery of a particular product, etc. So negotiations happen both formally as well as in an informal way. We all negotiate on a day-to-day basis whether we realize it or not. Well, there are certain basics in negotiation. Let's take a look at that. The first one is problem solving, which means when both the parties committing to examining and discussing issues closely when entering into a long-term agreement that warrants careful scrutiny. Well, if you want to really solve problems with the other party, you are getting into a negotiation from a long point or rather a long-term point of view, which will help you to solve certain problems that both the parties may be facing. Secondly is contending, which means that something that's really important for you and you really want the other party to give in to your own whims and fancies and demands, that is when you try to contend the negotiation. You try to put an upper hand which makes the other person want to kind of give in, or you try to show yourself as a predominator in that particular front. Yielding is a kind of negotiation wherein you give in to the demands of the other party because that's something that's more important for them and that's something that is which will help them in the long term. So you yield or you give in to their demands. Well, the next one is compromising, as the very word compromising means both the parties really foregoing their ideal outcomes, settle for an outcome that is moderately satisfactory to each of the participants. So you draw a middle line wherein both of you can get help out of that particular situation. So you come to a common consensus which will help both the parties. The next one is inaction. Well, in this inaction part of negotiation, you really want to buy time to think about what exactly do you want to negotiate on, and you want to buy time to really think about your decisions and come to a final decision on that front. So inaction is wherein you really a little bit low. Well, there are a lot of importances of negotiation in our day-to-day life, and let's take a look at them. Professional development and career advancement. If something that's really going to help you in your professional and your career development if you are a good negotiator. It also helps you to resolve conflicts, also helps you a large deal in how to solve problems which come in your day-to-day life. You also become good at communication because good negotiators are people who are really good communicators as well. You're able to get, a persuasive kind of a style wherein you're able to persuade people with your approach of negotiation. And lastly, it also helps you to enhance your influence on people, and negotiating really helps you in all of these particular aspects of your life or your competencies. Well, let's take a look at what exactly are good negotiators, and here is what the qualities are. A good negotiator is somebody who's really flexible, they're adaptable, they're creative, they're also aware of themselves and others. They're people who really are comfortable and confident of themselves, as well as good to be around with other people. A good negotiator is definitely somebody who is a good planner. They plan, they strategize each and every moment of their life. They're very, very honest, and they always try to have a win-win orientation. They're also good communicators. So if you are somebody who's really looking out to get into a negotiating mode, these are all the qualities that you need to possess in order to become a good negotiator. Well, a negotiating process has a particular step-by-step approach and a flow to negotiation. You do not just get into a negotiation, you need to go through it step by step. So here's what the steps of negotiating are. There is always a pre-negotiation stage, then comes the preparation. You understand the whims and fancies and desires of both the parties, what's important to them and what's important to you, what are his or her goals and your goals as well. Then you do the negotiating part. This is where the negotiation takes place, wherein you try to put your points and the other person also tries to put their points, and you try to negotiate either in terms of problem solving, or you get to compromise. You think of a win-win situation or a win-lose or I lose you win kind of situation. So the third stage is where the negotiation actually takes place. The fourth one is either you come to an agreement or consensus on something, or either you come into a non-agreement kind of mode wherein you do not, rather both the parties do not agree at all to negotiating. And the last one is post-negotiation learning. Even once the negotiation kind of closes or is ended, you try to understand what did you learn from that, so that you do not make the same mistakes in the next negotiation that you would be getting into. Well, how do you become a good negotiator? These are certain tips and tricks and techniques which is really going to help you in order to become a good negotiator. So these are the tips. The first one is be prepared. Well, if you're organized and prepared about what exactly you want to negotiate on, you will be clear in your mind about how do you go about the negotiating process. So always be prepared with the scenarios, with the situations, and with the other person whom you're going to be negotiating with. I would rather say go one step ahead and research on that particular person or party with whom you're going to be negotiating. The second one is you need to set your goals. You need to know where exactly, what exactly are your goals and what exactly are you looking at accomplishing by negotiating with that other party. So you need to know what is your final objective of negotiating. The third one is consider alternatives. Well, a negotiation should not always end with a complete no or something which is not going to be beneficial. You should always have your plan B or an alternative plan in action, so that if plan A doesn't work out, you know that you have plan B to fall back on. So always know what your alternatives is going to be. The fourth one is never ever sell yourself short. By this I mean to say that you should know what you're worth, and you should never say, or rather feel a little underconfident in telling the other person how much you're worth or how much is that particular problem worth. Never be underconfident about it. You need to be extremely confident and extremely, having a great self-esteem and knowing what you're worth, and never ever feel, short of selling yourself in a little lower way. The next one is take your time. Please do not rush into a negotiation. Always take your time to think and plan and strategize, and don't rush into a negotiation. The next one is communication is the key. Well, proper communication lets you express yourself clearly so that the other party understands what you're asking and is willing to hear you out and can do a reasonable negotiation with you. So always communicate in a clear, concise, and not too wordy way. Keep it short, keep it simple, and make it effective. The next one is to listen carefully. Well, when you are negotiating with the other party or the other person, it's very imperative and important to listen to the other person. Do not go on talking and rambling about what you want and what you need. It's also important to listen to the other party so that you are on an equal footing. The next one is to seek a win-win situation. Always try to negotiate in a fair manner. People like negotiating with people who are just and fair and not biased towards one thing or the other. So always try to have a win-win situation. Well friends, that makes us come to a conclusion or end for this particular topic on business negotiation skills. We have discussed many things in this particular module as to what is negotiation, how to become a good negotiator, also tips in terms of how do you be good and better at negotiating. Also we've discussed on what are the processes and the strategic way in which you can negotiate. I do hope you have enjoyed listening to this particular module on business negotiation skills. Keep watching, more videos coming your way. Till then, thank you.